Hey, everybody, how are you doing this fine Sunday night? Hey, it's Sunday night, and I know we had a week off last week, but we're back, so it's time for FMTV Weekly. Jump into the chat, get active. This is your show. We want to talk to you. But I'm not doing this by myself. I am with my buddy, Uncle Ed. Say hi, Ed.
How's it going, guys? Good to see you. Hoping you guys had a good week. We missed last show, so we're making up for it now. We're going to talk about the Inter Miami, the whole season, Peter.
Yeah, it's a season review. It wasn't the season we were all hoping for, right? But it's the season we ended up with. There's a lot to talk about, a lot to dissect, and we're going to end up spending most of the offseason kind of doing this, right? But while it's the wounds are still fresh after that Friday game where we got destroyed in a game that we shouldn't have gotten destroyed. But anyways, we're going to get to a lot of that. But before we do, Ed, how do you like this? How do you like my new threads?
Nice, man. That's
got the nice
stuff you got going.
The nice training. What is this? It's not the training top. It's similar, but it's like their warm up 3/4 zip, whatever. You see the players wearing them out and they go out. But I point that out so we could talk about Caneswear.
It looks like it's expensive, Peter. Yeah.
Well, it looks expensive, but Caneswear is having, or was having, and still having, to some extent, an amazing sale, right? So over Black Friday and throughout the weekend, they had 50% off on everything. So I'm hoping you guys were following me on Twitter or anything like that, where I kind of, and Facebook or Instagram or anything like that, where I kind of, promoted it a little bit. And I hope you took advantage and went to Caneswear. Be on the lookout, though, for Cyber Monday. Tomorrow, Monday, they will have some amazing sales as well. I'm not exactly sure what the sales will be, but you too can get one of these like awesome shirts for like half off, or maybe it's 30% off. I'm not exactly sure. I know they're planning on having some really good sales on the jerseys, and everybody always wants another jersey, right? So go get yourself another jersey at Caneswear, and thank you for them for sponsoring us. Ed, there's a bunch of people. There's a bunch of people in the chat.
There are, Peter, and I'm going to start naming them out right now. This One World, One Goal was the first one in here that I could tell anyways. At 5:54, man, she's got nothing better to do, right? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's good.
We got Jose Velasquez, who also, he's interested in the transfer windows. We'll talk about that in a bit. Of course, we can't, the justice guy, we're going to need him pretty soon about, with all this election stuff. Judge Dredd the Law, dude. What's up, Judge Dredd? We've also have Jazz Fusion. Greetings to all. Jazz Fusion, one of the original followers. We got Kevin Gonzalez. Kevin, how you doing? Kevin was supposed to go to the Nashville game. He was going to do actually one of those marathon things, but they canceled it. So, he ended up not going. He didn't get to see, us get hurt by Nashville. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We got Alex Z. How you doing, Alex? Good to see him. You got Jeff Reed, who's also in here. And we got so far a good amount of people that are starting to. Footballer is also here. Footballer, how's it going? And we'll keep mentioning people a little bit in the future, Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining in, and as always, we've got our voicemail up and running. I've got it plugged in. I've got it charged this week, so no issues here. And the phone number's in the bottom of the screen if you want to give us a call at 786-474-4435. And we've got a couple of voicemails that were left last week. Because people didn't know that we were canceling the show, so they left them last week, and I think they're probably applicable for this week. And last week, maybe the emotions were even a little more raw, so it might be fun to listen to some of those from last week, this week. But and you
guys know we didn't do the show because, of course, where else is Peter going to go?
Yeah, I know. I was I was in Disney.
Mickey.
Well, yeah. Well, I have a Brazilian family member, and they wanted to go to Orlando. The funny thing is, he didn't want to go to Disney. Me and my daughter went to Disney by ourselves. My wife drove my nephew around Orlando to see other things. He had no interest in Disney, but he did want to go to Orlando because that's where his family was from when they did come and live in the country. So he wanted to see things that his father saw. So it was kind of an emotional thing for him. But he had no interest in going to Disney. So me and my daughter said, "See ya. We're going to go see Mickey."
Yeah. You're like, sucker, all right, go do your little tour. I'm going to go see Mickey and get on rides. And where'd you end up going? To the Magic Kingdom?
We went to Animal Kingdom the first day and then Magic Kingdom the second day. So the interesting thing was that, my wife needed the car then, right? So, I'm in Disney without a car, just like all these other tourists, and having to use like Disney transportation to drop me off at Disney Springs and then have my wife pick me up, all that kind of fun stuff. Hey, Alex Z is saying, Ed, that you sound a bit sick. Hope you're okay.
Wow. Well, maybe it's because I'm in a different environment, and somebody had mentioned it on the chat that I'm in a different environment. Yeah, this is not my usual background. At my daughter's, business center.
Mm-hmm.
I had to get away because it was a little noisy. There's a little kid around, jumping all over the place, sometimes naked. So I didn't want to put you guys through all that and all the noise in the background. So I came to the business center, and that's why I've got that, real cool background behind me. So I hope you guys enjoy it.
Great.
So yeah, Peter.
Great. Well, we got another voice. We got a voicemail that came in just now, actually. So that's good.
Wow. Well, why don't we start with the voicemails, Peter? I mean, how many? You've had some from last week, right?
I've got three. I've got three voicemails. Yeah. So what we wanted to do tonight is just kind of go through the season and get your thoughts. If you have any thoughts and you want to just chat them, that's great. If you want to call, that's great as well. But like what did they do right? What did they do wrong? Kind of like what I put in the description. What's the area that you think needs to be identified or addressed like right away? Like, what's the most important thing in your opinion? Everybody's opinion's a little bit different. I know some people are going to say most important thing is the coach, and Before we go to voicemails, let's touch on this though real quick because I just started going down that path a little bit. The coach topic, and not just coach topic, but there was also comment that that AJ De La Garza said that I'm sure a lot of you guys saw thanks to Franco Panizo. He put up, and I'll put it right here over my face, that AJ De La Garza, having an honest moment, said that communication has to be better. Language barriers have to be better. Too many guys don't speak Spanish. And too many don't speak English. And that leads to not communicating on the field. What do you think about that, Ed? Where do you think he's
very honest and very honest and very true?
Yeah, and he there was a follow-up portion of that too, and he wasn't necessarily throwing Alonso under the bus, although that has to play a part, and we did talk about that on this show throughout earlier in the year. Is there a language barrier? The fact that he's giving all the instructions in Spanish, and AJ is one of those guys that looks like he would speak Spanish, right? He's obviously
he's got the last name.
He's of Latin descent. I forget what country. But he grew up in this country and he doesn't speak Spanish, and so he's speaking from just his own personal experience there. But he went in a little bit deeper in another comment that I didn't get a screenshot of. But he was specifically going into more detail about the play on the field. Like, you go over to a teammate and you want to say something to him, but they don't understand you. And the funny thing is, I thought, okay, that's an issue, but isn't that every team in MLS? Doesn't every team have that issue? Because every team has got players from all around the world.
Well, every team in this world, I think, has that problem.
Right.
I'm sure not everybody in Barcelona or Real Madrid speak the same language, but eventually they do. A lot of those players, they put them in crash courses for Spanish, and by the time they're a couple of years go by, they're speaking fluently. So. Is the team doing that? Are they, helping the guys, take courses? This year was a mess. in every sense of the word. And maybe that didn't happen because, of the virus or whatever. And, but, you would imagine that's probably one of the things that the team would do, give English courses to some of these players. And like I said, the situation this year was terrible. Yeah, I think the team was doing well in the beginning, even though we lost a couple of games in the beginning. But it looked like we could have gotten there if the whole season would have gone through.
Gerardo Guerrero says that's a cop-out. Leagues around the world have multiple players that speak different languages, not necessarily English. Yeah, when AJ said that at first, I thought he was specifically talking about the coach. But like I said, there was a follow-up comment where he was specifically talking about the players in the field. And I would agree a little bit with Gerardo in that I'm surprised that AJ said that if he's speaking about the players, he's been in MLS for a long time. And we could talk about players around the world, but let's talk about MLS. And MLS is similar to leagues around the world, maybe not in the quality of play, but the fact that players are from all nationalities, that's no different in MLS than it is in La Liga, right? Or EPL, right? It's players from wherever and everywhere, and many languages are spoke. So I'm surprised that he would make that comment about his fellow players, because he's been in this league a long time. He's been around it.
Oh yeah.
So it was a bit of a surprise.
I like what Jazz Fusion's saying. He says, institute some Spanglish classes. Meet halfway. I like that. Meet halfway Spanglish. We'll be original.
Hey, look, there was years ago, this was with the old Miami FC, the original Miami FC that became the Fort Lauderdale Strikers. They had Brazilian player, Zinho. Some of you guys may remember him. He then became the coach. And I became friendly with him because he went to the same church as my wife. And we would ask him how he was doing with his English. And his answer was he's learning soccer English. So, and then I witnessed it when there was a couple of games that I was on the sideline, right? And so I could hear everything being yelled at on the play, on the field, and him as a coach at different times. So, and there's just certain words that they learn, right? Specific to soccer, open or man on or whatever terminology, but it's specific to soccer English. They may not be able to go to the store and have a full conversation with somebody to order something, but they can communicate with the soccer terms. They learn a handful of terms, and that should be good enough.
Right. Well, yeah. I think soccer English is good enough. I think if everybody's on the same, in baseball they've got all these little signs and stuff that they do. They're like, doing all those, crazy little signs, and that's how they communicate. We could do the same stuff in in soccer, Spanish, I was gonna say, Spanglish or whatever.
Right.
We'll have our own signs.
Gerardo's saying he never played with Spanish speakers. Haha. Well, that's not true. I mean, come on. He played in LA, and there's Spanish speakers there. So
there's a lot of Spanish speakers, but I would imagine, this team that we had a lot of people that came in that that probably didn't have. The Argentinian kids didn't have any, English. I don't know if Higuain had any English. He played in Italy. He played in Spain. So maybe he didn't have that much English. There's a lot of players that that we had that didn't speak English, but Morgan did really well. What can you say about him?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he seemed to communicate well enough.
Yeah, or he's just that good of a player that it doesn't matter what language you speak. He knows what his job is, and he does it.
Right, and yeah. So, all right, let's get to some voicemail. And first one here is from an old buddy of ours. So if any of you guys listened to our old podcast from years ago, Ultras Alive, will remember a guy named Yankee Boy. That's his nickname. He listened, he was a big listener of ours, and we became friendly with him. We invited him on the show, and then he had a segment every week where we didn't tell him what to talk about. He just went off on a tangent and ranted about something. And he was a great friend of the show, a great contributor to that old show. And we got a voicemail from him checking in. And by the way, he was following South Florida soccer. Meanwhile, lives in Maryland. Just kind of interesting. Let's take a listen.
Hey, Peter, Uncle Ed. And
hang on, wrong one. I will get to you. One world, one goal. We'll get to you. All right, here it is.
PB, T.O. Ed. It's your brother from another mother, old Yankee boy calling you from Maryland in the heart of the D.C. Baltimore corridor. Listen, my condolences about the result on Friday. It was a rough way to go out. Your team had a lot of stuff going against it. Obviously not just the COVID issues, Pizarro's international duty. I would argue that the second goal, that penalty was a very, very harsh call. But in the end, you got your first season under your belt. I gotta say, AJ De La Garza in his post-game comments really summarized a big part of what's been going on with y'all this season. It just wasn't good enough. Guys just didn't get it done, and he owned that. One of my only concerns is that AJ, a guy who I've loved since he was playing for the University of Maryland, Terps, 20 minutes down the road, so he's a stand-up guy. I had some concerns about when he said that language barrier was a problem with your defense, and that not enough guys speak Spanish, not enough guys speak English, and that language barriers were resulting in the difficulties you're having. That's completely unacceptable. Guys are professionals. Guys should have learned how to say, that guy's your guy, this guy's my guy, you have to close this guy down. Someone should have stepped to McCarthy. That shouldn't have been on language. He was left way too much space. So when you have an ownership group where guys speak multiple languages, the technical director, the ownership group, no, the players, they got to own that. They got to learn how to communicate better. And if they're not getting it done, they need to be held to a higher standard. Holler at you later, players.
All right. Thanks a lot, Yankee, touching on some of the things we talked about. One of the things he did say that AJ did comment, and he was flat out honest, and we weren't good enough, and we let the fans down. He was very, very honest about that. And I forgot that AJ is also from Maryland. I mean, when we had him on the show earlier in the year, he was calling us from Maryland, if you recall, Ed.
Yeah, you're right. And you guys can check that video out. Just look at the beginning of the year. Right before the season started, we spoke to him after we had him at an event earlier that week. But yeah, Peter, he's pretty straightforward. And think about it. He didn't play for a large point of this season, and he probably wouldn't have played if a lot of these players didn't get hurt or had yellow cards or whatever. So it's one of those things that he takes ownership for the lack of play by him and his teammates, but he didn't really participate for a while. So I can't really say that he's one of the guys to blame. And that's when we start talking about maybe it's the coach. He can't communicate in English very well. His tactics maybe didn't work. But then he didn't put the team together. There's so many factors that's probably the reason why he's still around and why he's probably going to be around next year unless the team does terrible, right?
Yeah, agreed. We've talked about Alonso and how long of a rope is he going to get? I think he's definitely going to get a part of next season. If he tanks next season, the first 5-6 games, I think then you start looking. But there is a valid point in that I don't care what Paul McDonough said when he was saying this was our guy, this is the guy we were looking for. We were going after Diego Alonso. He was our guy. That's BS because they would have signed him a long time ago, right? They would have signed him earlier in the process. So they were picking players for a different type of coach. Diego Alonso is just who they ended up with, not who they were looking for. And so now to be fair to Diego, they need to talk with him when they now want to, pick out the next group of players, those people that need to replace. Like, for example, I agree with what Franco wrote on SBIsoccer.com article where he was talking about some 5 things that need to be addressed first. And he did mention one of those things was, a real number 6, somebody that to play next to Matuidi, somebody who's like a little tougher and meaner, win those balls, because the Trap and Uoa combination, or putting one in or the other in, just didn't really work. I mean, they weren't terrible; they just weren't good enough, right? And so we definitely, that's a position of need that they need to look at. But we need to see Alonso, how good he can be. We really need to let him help pick some players. Now, I mean, there are issues in that, hey, he doesn't like to make substitutions till the last 5 minutes of the game. And that's nothing to do with the players that were picked for him. That's just his coaching style, and that's weird.
Yeah, especially because, that's weird.
We got some effects, Ed.
Cool.
We got some effects.
Nice, yeah. That was cool stuff. Peter, whoa.
There you go.
Threw me off. I totally forgot what I was going to say, Peter, because you threw me off with that. But, no. Okay, came back. Now I remember what I was going to say.
This is a magisterial goal of the highest order.
If I'm trying to throw you off, I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah, you're totally throwing me off now, man. That one.
I've loaded
good
some.
Old Ray Hudson.
I've loaded some things. Did a few things.
Well, that was kind of cool.
There you go. Anyways, what were you trying to say, Ed?
No, I was saying that there are players that I'm already hearing that might not be back next season. One of the guys that I was watching Mexican soccer this weekend, and I can't remember who the coach was, but there's a Mexican team that one of the people that he wanted on the team was Pizarro. He wanted to somehow try to get that player back. So I don't know if it was Monterrey or Pachuca, one of those teams that he played with before, but the coach, he was a new coach. I forget his name, who he was, but he's looking to, bring in a player for next season, and they mentioned Pizarro. So do you think Pizarro is going to go back to Mexico? Do you think he's going to stay next year? What are your thoughts on that player? He's an important player, our first DP, well, our second DP, our first big DP, we could
first
say.
Senior DP.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I read a little bit of what you're talking about. I saw some article where it also was commenting that he's frustrated here. Like, maybe he was sold a bill of goods a little bit. He kind of thought it was going to be one thing because of the Beckham name attached to it, and it turned out to be something different. But in my opinion, he can't complain. He was part of the problem. He could be part of the solution, but he was also part of the problem at times. He's fun to watch, but we all know he holds on to the ball too much, dribbles around too much, loses possession too much. So there's definitely some problems with Pizarro. So I would like to see him back because, put a better team around him, and if the coach can get in his ear a little bit more and talk about how, sharing the ball a little bit more, not, trying to dribble it into the box every single time and, getting dispossessed, that'd be great. But, if he's not happy and wants to move on, fine, do it, because, I was going to say he's not that's a player that should work well with Alonso because Alonso's coached him already.
And he should work also with our new DP, with Gonzalo Higuain, who, unfortunately wasn't able to play this last game because of COVID. Everybody was expecting for those guys to work out really well, but it didn't work out that way. As a matter of fact, there were games where we played without Pizarro that we actually played better, and we got to look up. That's one of the statistics we got to look up, Peter, because I think there were times when he wasn't around. He went on his national team duties, which is another subject we could talk about, where we played better without him.
Right.
And I was like, all right, do we really need this guy? I mean, he's wonderful to watch, he takes on
He
two,
could
three
dazzle
players.
you. He could dazzle you from
Yeah, he
time
can
to time.
dazzle you. Yeah, but at the end, we're not winning with him. So
And I would
that's an
agree.
issue.
I would agree with One World One Goal. He is not a number 10. He is a 9 type. I don't even know if he's a 9. I'd put him out on the wing.
Yeah, I think he's more of a winger. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Peter, because
And on the wing he can come in to the middle whenever he needs to. That's fine. But I think he's definitely not a number 10. So
right.
All right.
I have to agree with you on that.
All right, let's go to another voicemail. I know that Jonathan Carranza left a voicemail, but we will get to that. We're going to go in order. So let's go here and play One World, One Goals. She said it's heated.
Hey, Peter, Uncle Ed, and Ricky Ricardo. First, I want to thank all the fans. We definitely have the best fans in MLS. This is One World, One Goal, in case you couldn't tell. And I want to say that the most important thing we can do, obviously, speaking of the fans, I want to also give a shout out to Spanish Bull, who passed away this year, and say that we understand there's a serious health crisis hitting the country, and that affected the team drastically. But what we want the team to do is we don't need the big Mourinho's from Europe. We don't need the Cristiano Ronaldos, the Messis. We just basically want them to recreate what we had with the Fusion, which when they first branded and marketed, yes, they brought Valderrama and Diego Serna and all these other people that came in and proved themselves to be stars. And then we replaced Valderrama with Jim Rooney, who did a fantastic job. So, a coach like a Ray Hudson was ample enough to be charismatic, someone that understands the league. They can bring in someone like Jeff Cassar, a past Fusion and FIU champion who knows the league. They, look how well Jay Heaps, Pablo Mastroeni, all of our Fusion guys did very well into the coaching. And then we need quality scouting and getting players from Central America, South America, people that, they can relate to. And I know they're really strong on France right now, but most of us don't really have any identity to France. So I know they're looking at one of the Chelsea players, Giroud, or however you say his name, because they're still trying to get that big name. But the problem is we need these people signed here now in November. Everyone needs to be signed by December 1st. All the players, all the coaches, all the assistants. And then by January 10th, the camp opens. We never need everyone in place. So they got to hire now and not throw us a million names that might come later when they're 34 or 36 or 37. We really need, if they can get someone like that, great. But we need them to focus on getting people that understand their positions. When you're in defense, you got to play defense. When you're in midfield, you link up the defense to the forwards. When you're on forward, you need to play the attack. And we need depth. We need people that understand if somebody's out sick, somebody's out on international duty, that the whole team doesn't crash. So, there's a real disconnect in basically just the setup of the team that, every kid playing soccer in South Florida knows how to do. So to attract everyone to admire what's on the pitch, we need to just go back to the basics. And we need to, I hate to say it, but we pretty much got to get rid of about 80% of what's there and start over. And we need incredible marketing. Can't just be social media. We need to embrace.
Oh, got cut off there a little bit at the end. A lot of good points there by One World, One Goal. One thing she was talking about was, comparing it to the Miami Fusion, our beloved Miami Fusion. A lot of us older guys and gals remember the Miami Fusion. And they didn't start off so great either, right? It took them a while to figure it out and went through a couple of coaches. We had Cacho Cordoba, Ivo Wortman. Was there another one before Ray Hudson, or was Ray Hudson the third coach? Might have been the third.
No, he was the fourth.
Fourth coach, yeah. Who am I missing?
Ivo Wortman, and there is one more that we're missing.
I don't remember. Oh, maybe One World, One Goal will tell us because she was very.
Cacho Cordova, Ivo.
He was
Wortman.
The first. Ivo was second or third. Yeah. Anyways, but her point being that, the way I interpreted her point, that the team that Ray Hudson coached was not technically, the best players. There were no real stars on that team. You might say that Diego Serrano was a bit of a star. I know she'd be happy to hear that, but there were no real big stars. And the proof to the fact that there were no real big stars was that when they left Miami Fusion, because Miami Fusion folded, none of them really thrived except for like Pablo Mastroeni, Jay Heaps a little bit, but he had already left ahead of time. A lot of the players didn't thrive in other teams the way they did in Miami Fusion. So it was like this great collection of players, the perfect fit. It was all about the fit of the players and not so much getting the star player. And something, that was there was a comment that I saw in the chat is that would that sell in today's MLS and today in South Florida today? We want the big stars here, and so would that kind of team sell? At the end of the day, Ed, I think winning sells, and so at the end it doesn't matter as long as you win.
Yeah, I think if it was, we were still lacking, star players. If we had a team like that last 2001 Miami Fusion team that was winning constantly, I think people would support it because it was so much fun, Peter, to watch those guys play. And so heartbreaking for them to break up such a great team. And you mentioned it, there really weren't players that were superstars per se. There were a lot of people that had a lot of experience. It was Preki, who was one of the guys that came in, who complimented the team incredibly. With one play he'd win a game. He'd have that wonderful left foot where he scored many goals, and he'd always do the same play. It's like the only play that he knew how to do, but
it always worked. It always worked.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
So it was wonderful to see.
Something else she said was that we need to have all the players and everything done by December 1st. Yeah, I don't see that happening yet. Do you? The thing I feel like this team does a lot of things, the last minute. It's very Miami. It's very kind of lackadaisical, tranquilo. It'll all work out. Don't worry. And that drives me nuts. They got the coach late. They're picking up players all throughout the season. So I don't think you would hope that they were identifying players at the last third of the season because they knew where the problems were by then, and they were ready to go. But she also touched on something. We need good scouts. Is our scouting group up to par? That's good because we don't know. I mean, I know there's Ziggy Schmid's son is one of the scouts. How good is he as a scout? I don't know. But we seem to be focused only on Argentina. I mean, sure, we got one French guy, but we're mostly looking at Argentina. Is our scouting network really not up to par?
That might be, man.
Well, I don't know. It's hard to tell.
It's hard. Yeah, you're right. It's hard to tell because we don't know, how this whole thing came together. We know that Paul McDonough put this team together. But who was working for him, we don't really know. How much is that going to play until next season? Because next season, I think the coach is going to have a little more say on what players he wants. He probably knows which players he doesn't want back at this stage, I would imagine. Hopefully. Would
you agree with her that it's 80% of the team? That's a lot.
Too much. I think
that's a little bit much.
There's certain players. I mean, we got that they're playing. They're paying a lot of money. Pellegrini, for example, I don't think he's worth the DP spot. They need to negotiate him down.
They got to renegotiate that.
Yeah. Does he have potential? I think he does. But he's just all speed, all running, and no real contributions. Every so often, he does do something great.
Once in a while.
And it shows. Yeah, it shows like a little bit of hope. At the end of the tunnel, but. Carranza, he scored. There was a game where he scored two goals, and we're like, all right, this guy's going to take off, but he never did.
Yeah.
So there's another player that's making a lot of money, and I think they should negotiate, cap space by bringing them down or whatever if they want to keep these players, which I would imagine they do because they want to work them up. They're young.
I think they want to keep the youth for sure. You look at someone like Trapp, who we figured was coming in for one season anyways, because he's at the end of his contract. So I think we all felt like he's a one season and done kind of guy. but like, you know, your youth, you want to definitely keep, you know.
Right.
And I imagine Higuain is coming back. I imagine they want to build a team around him maybe. Although he didn't look all that interested at times. He did a lot of this.
Right. I think he thought he was too good for the team. And so, you know, he expected people to pass him the ball to his feet, and that wasn't happening. So he had to go back and get the ball. So, you know, what can we say? They've. I'm sure the coach has a list of players that he, you know, doesn't want back, and maybe that's something we could start doing, making a list of the players that we don't think should come back. We know, for example, everybody wants Morgan. Definitely the best player that we had this season. I think a lot of people would agree. He was the only one that was very consistent, always on top of things, always, you know, making the extra, you know, running that extra mile to, you know, make the passes and make the good plays. So that's one guy that everybody's going to want to keep. But at the same time, a lot of teams have seen how good this guy is. He might be another guy that might not last, Peter, into next year because, you know, the team probably wants to open up, you know, space. And there's the guy that needs to be paid more for his contribution this year.
I mean, they definitely want to be a selling team. Right. Yeah, I think that's something that Paul McDonough kind of, I think he said or at least he gave me that impression a couple times when I talked to him, you know, so yeah, if they get a big enough offer for Morgan, he's out, he's gone.
Right.
So, but I certainly hope he's back for the full season. And then, you know, for third season, light it up, win a championship, make a nice run in the playoffs, really show what you're made of, maybe have a better team around you, and then, you know, really show off and then go back to Europe or something like that after that. But I'd like to see one more year with him. Eric Thomas makes a comment about, you know, I mentioned that Matuidi is a Frenchman that's here, and he says Matuidi's here because Matuidi wanted to be here because of his connection with David Beckham. And you know, we were talking about how things are done on Latin time, and One World, One Goal is saying Beckham is not Latin though, signed, sealed, and delivered by January 10th start. So she's saying since Beckham is not Latin, that we may do things differently. I'll be honest, Beckham he's not a figure that's around. I mean, he's a invisible partner kind of thing. You know, he does a tiny bit maybe here and there, but does not have the impact that anybody really thought that he might have. Really, at the end of the day, for me, Beckham can do no wrong because we have a team because of him. He had his Groupon deal to get the team for such a low price, and he did it, and we'll forever be thankful. But he's not all that involved in anything.
Right. If you see him and follow him on Instagram or any social media, you'll see that he's locked up with his family in a farm. Well, no, before COVID, he was just traveling the world doing a bunch of different things. So now, he's locked up at home, right? He's locked up at home right now.
Doing Legos, right?
You know, doing Legos, cooking a lot, you know, putting up lights for Christmas.
I did that.
You know, so his contribution, this year has been one of those crazy years where I think he probably made a couple phone calls to get some of these players to come to Miami.
Well,
but other than that,
that was the one thing. Jorge Mas was on Onside Radio with Big O, our friend Big O, and he did mention that he confirmed that basically every player that was rumored, they talked to. So these rumors that we constantly hear about, they're not that far off. These people that are saying that we're interested in a player, like Paul McDonough won't acknowledge it, but after the fact, now that that's already passed, Jorge Mas did say that everybody pretty much that was rumored they spoke to. So that means they had serious conversations or some sort of conversation with all these big names that we heard about. And all of them said, nah.
Yeah, it probably had a lot to do with money.
Right.
They weren't offered what they were offered in their current teams, or, you know, they thought there's still a lot of players that think that MLS stepped back.
I got to put up Eric Thomas's comment. Let's face it, Tubby did a horrible job GMing this team this year. poor MLS scouting, and he had very myopic view of international players he wanted on this team. Jazz enjoys the Tubby reference.
and who is he talking about, Peter? Oh, I'm not going to mention.
Paul McDonough. Come on. He's talking about our buddy Paul. I like Paul, but, you know, Paul could go on a diet. I think he would admit to that. I think, you know, but I would never be disrespectful to Mr. McDonough. He's a very nice gentleman. I do. He gave me a nice tour, and I like him. He's a good guy. Is he the right GM? I don't know. We talked about this on a previous show a while back, where he was right before coming here, or the reason he got this job is he's riding high from what he did in Atlanta, but he also put together Orlando. And
right.
That was a failure.
I think wasn't he the guy that brought Kaká over?
Obviously, he was involved. I mean, he was a member of that team that he helped put it together. I don't think he'd made all the decisions like he's doing now, but he was heavily involved with putting that team together. And so he did, and he put together Atlanta, and he did amazingly well. And that's what he's riding on those coattails right now. So who is the real Paul McDonough? The one that put together Orlando, or the guy that put together Atlanta? And it's looking like maybe he's really the Orlando guy that, he grabbed some names, grabbed some players, and just threw them together. But I don't know. It just didn't work. It didn't work. And is it a scouting problem? I don't know.
Well, it didn't help that this year sucked,
But
everything that happened.
But every team had that same problem. Nashville had that same problem, and they whooped our ass.
They did, and they went farther than we did. So, even though, how much credit do we get for sneaking in to the playoffs when there was a whole bunch of extra teams? I think only 4 teams didn't go into the playoffs out of all the teams in Major League Soccer.
I hope they don't look at this year as a success because they made the playoffs. And that was my fear, is when they did make the playoffs, they could actually claim, hey, our first year we made the playoffs. Only so many teams have done that throughout history. It's not, it's a landmark thing. Great job. We're on the right path. No, you're not. And you got in because they allowed everybody in, and they made it easy. And things fell into place. They won the one game in the Hurricane, which is what they had to do. But a lot of teams came in and helped by losing.
Oh, yeah. So we kind of got it handed to us, and whatever. We're grateful. We got what we got. We played that extra game, which for me was it was happy. But this year was so terrible. I just want to be over with, because we mentioned it off camera that we haven't been watching soccer as much as we did in past years, and I haven't. Major League Soccer, I started watching the last couple of years because we knew a team was coming, and I was like, all right, I need to know who these players are. But this year was just I kind of lost interest, man, because we couldn't even go to the games in certain situations, and then when we finally did. Things came up, and I wasn't able to go to a couple of them. So, I expected to go to every game, Peter. I expected to go to most of the away games, and it didn't happen. So, it was disappointing after disappointment. And then, yes, we made the playoffs, but did we deserve to be there? And then I don't know. Maybe I'm just I just want this year to be over, and hoping that the team gets things right and starts working now for our coming year, and for the coach to finally get to pick his players, and that way if he screws up, he needs to be shown the highway.
Yeah, it's funny. Jose Velasquez has got the defeatist attitude going. We don't want that either. He says we're not getting no one next year.
Whoa, what do you think about that?
I mean, I don't want to say that. All right, I don't think this is, somebody else had written dumpster fire. I don't think we're a dumpster fire. It didn't come together as quickly as they wanted. I think all of them pre-COVID, Jorge Mas talked a big game. He thought it was going to be easier to land some of these big players than it was. They had expectations that just didn't pan out. Now they got slapped with reality that, just because you throw out a David Beckham name does not mean Cavani is coming here. No, he's going to go to Manchester United and do well because he's still got game, right? He's not coming.
He's doing
here.
well.
He is.
Yeah, Cavani did really well. He's already had, I think, 3 goals.
Right.
And I think it was 129 minutes, Peter. 3 goals and an assist, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I know he's doing well. I haven't watched the games, but I keep seeing his image up on social media saying that he scored. So I know he's doing well. So all right, hey, let's go to our last voicemail that we have right now. He's been waiting patiently to discuss this stuff. Here we go.
What's up, Peter, Uncle Ed? Just wanted to call voicemail saying what's up, and the game against Nashville was not pretty. And Pete, looking good in your new Inter Miami jacket. Looks nice.
Yeah.
So my question is, what has to happen on the off season to improve next season? Because right now it looks like we have to get rid of some players. We have to sign some new players, but that can't happen if we get rid of some players. So if you were the coach, who would you get rid of?
That's a tough one, Ed.
I know one for sure, Peter.
Okay, you go.
You would pick Sweat. I think.
Oh, I love Sweat. Sweat would be my captain.
Or to go out, you mean?
No. Sweat's my guy. I love Sweat. Sweat would be the next year's captain.
You're not being sarcastic, Peter?
All right, maybe a little bit. He could be the captain of Miami FC. Let's send him back down to the USL Championship. There, he will do great, and I'll cheer for him at Ricardo Silva Stadium. And actually, I want to talk about Miami FC in a little bit. They did something cool. He's got to go.
Okay. All right, let's start in the back, man. Okay, we've got our captain who, got hurt. You think it's time for him to leave? He got hurt. He should come back. I think he's a great goalkeeper. But McCarthy's been doing a pretty decent job. So.
I think McCarthy is still a backup. I mean, he freezes when it comes to those penalty kicks, right? He got better, but he's still a backup, I think. I guess it really depends on Robles's recovery. I think you might need to really entertain that idea of looking at another goalkeeper. But I don't want to see what I've seen some people wanting international goalkeepers. I think we have plenty of quality goalkeepers in America. So I don't want to spend an international DP slot or something like that on a goalkeeper. But find somebody, I don't even know who, but find somebody in the United States, that could be, depending on Robles' recovery. I mean, he had some good moments. He had some bad moments, but they loved him. He's the captain, and if he can recover, he deserves his job still.
Gotcha.
All
right.
And if he can't come back, or he's still going to be out for a little longer, I think you do need to bring in another high quality, and then there's a real competition. So,
right.
All right. So then Let's talk
about the defenders.
Okay, do it.
Let's talk about defenders. A lot of them did terrible this year. Okay, there we've got Reyes is probably gone. He came as a loan. The team he came from was
they have an option. They could buy him.
Do you think they'll do the option?
He made some rookie type of mistakes here and there, but he's got potential. At times I really liked him.
He's young. He's got a cool Batman look going right now.
At least for now.
So they could market that next year. Make some money. Do the Reyes mask thing. So and plus he's young. So
yeah, exactly.
Maybe they do keep the guy.
He doesn't have to be a starter. You could still put in some good quality players around him. So I mean, if you go through it, you got to also you got to keep LGP.
Okay, LGP's good.
I like him.
Keep him.
Right.
Let's Let's about AG De La Garza. He finally got to play towards the end.
I mean,
What are
you
your
could
thoughts
keep
on
him. You could keep him. He's on the bench. He does well when he comes in. If he has a chance to start, he could do well. I don't think I don't know what kind of a salary he has. So I mean, because that plays a big part into this. I mean, if he's commanding a large salary, he's out.
Right.
Because he didn't play enough.
Right. But when he did, I think, a pretty good job. So he could be a backup. Or
More importantly, thinking of starters, what do you think of Futbol? When I saw him in the preseason, I thought, man, this guy's a beast. He's going to tear up MLS. How do you think his first season went? And you guys in the chat, how do you think Futbol's season went?
Yeah, all these players that we're talking about, guys, please put it in the comments below. If we miss anybody, please put it in so that we can not miss these guys. Tell us who you think should go, who should we keep. Futbol's one of those players, Peter, that he started off well. He looked tough. He looked good in the area. He was up there with the headers. And then as the year went on, he wasn't as good, I think. He wasn't as good. So there's a potential of a player. There's a player right there that that might be leaving, I think.
Yeah, I mean, our defense was bad, but then again, sometimes is it the defense that's bad or the midfield that let everything go through? But there's times where we all saw it; they just didn't step up, and it happened in the Nashville game. They just didn't make those steps up like they should. So the entire defensive line really could be up for. But here's something Eric Thomas put in who he wants to keep. So he's saying keep Morgan, Figal, LGP, Reyes, Matuidi, Higuain, Pizarro, and McCoon. Everybody else I'd expose to the expansion draft.
Interesting.
He's exposing Pellegrini, Carranza. He's exposing everybody.
Right. I would. McCoon. I didn't see enough of him.
I don't know why you keep McCoon. I don't know why you keep McCoon.
Maybe because he's young.
Yeah, and he also likes Shea. He'd keep Shea too. But McCoon's young.
I think we'd all keep Shea.
Yeah, McCoon's young. I don't know.
Well, there's another player who plays as a defensive midfielder or as a defender. So he's young. I think he still needs some playing time before they put him in there as a starter. Who else, Peter? Who are we missing? Let's continue with the defenders. Breck Shea is one of the guys. Yeah, he could play as a defender, on the left, or as a midfielder. I think they even used him as a forward once.
You got to keep Breck. They got him cheap. He deserves more money. He's probably earned a raise. You keep him. You can use him as a super sub, or when players are injured, he could play defense. He could play wing. I mean, he's solid. He's much better than anybody thought he would be. That's the thing.
Exactly. Anybody on the left that needs to be covered, he could do it. So that's a player that I would also keep. I'm okay with that.
Jazz Fusion saying Nealis not ready to start. I would agree. Nealis looks good at times, but inconsistent. He gets beat quite a bit. So I remember Nani kind of. I think if I remember correctly, he played an Orlando game, and Nani kind of abused him a little bit.
Right. He needs. I think I would keep him because I think he's got potential.
He's cheap. He's a draft pick. So they the players they bring him on the draft, they get cheap. So there's no reason not to keep him.
Right. So anybody else that we're missing in the back that I can't think of right now?
Now let's move to the midfield.
Midfield. All right. Well, let's start with our probably best midfielder. I think Matuidi as a defensive midfielder. I think he's solid. I think that's a player that could probably play by himself as a defensive midfielder if I think he was, maybe a little bit younger. I think he's a solid player.
Yeah.
The only reason why I put him as the only defensive midfielder is because I think we have a lot of players that could play offensively, and we could use those three instead of using Trapp or Ulloa as the other defensive midfielder, which none of them I think made the cut to and as you saw in every game, they were constantly putting either Trapp or Ulloa in that position, and it never seemed to work out. So those are two players that since we're mentioning them, Peter, what do you think about Ulloa and Trapp? Stay or go?
Out. Both of them.
Both of them.
Well, here's the thing: if Ulloa is cheap, you put him on the bench, and you can rely on him when he comes in. He's not bad, but I think we need a better midfield. You need a better partner for Matuidi because, like you said, he's not young. He can't cover the ground like he used to. There's times where I complained about him walking the field like he thinks he's Valderrama back in the day. But there's times where I saw that he should step to a player, but he just doesn't have, I guess, that step. He just can't get there. When he has the ball, he looks great. There's times though that he just can't do it. He looks slow. So, but when he does get the ball, he does good stuff. So I like him, but he needs a partner, and he needs somebody better than the Trapp and Ulloa. And Trapp's not a cheap player. I don't remember. I'd have to look up what his contract is, but he's in the last year of his contract. He's going to want to get a raise, and so no matter what. When we're talking expansion draft for the new teams that are coming in, you leave someone like him exposed, and I think he's somebody that makes sense for an expansion team. I understand why we brought him in, but now we've outgrown him, and it's time to move up, get somebody better. And so I think he definitely could make sense with an expansion team, and let him go.
All right, we've got Morgan. I think everybody would agree on the right-hand side. On the right, nobody's better. Morgan, definitely everybody wants him to stay. Unfortunately, we talked about it a few minutes ago. There's always that potential somebody's going to pay pretty bucks for him. So it's quite a possibility that he might be leaving this season. Pizarro's another one. He had his flashes of, greatness and holds on to the ball too much. We've complained about it. Would you want him to stay? Would you want him to go, Peter?
I'm not upset either way. Like, if I think he could still be good, but if he decided to leave or somebody offered him enough money, I would not be upset. They just need to, replace with quality. I don't want to, go cheap. You spent money to get him, spend money to get another player that's going to fit Alonso's style if you're keeping Alonso.
Gotcha. All right. So
kind of ambivalent. I didn't give you a real answer. What do you think, Ed? You're asking me the questions. What do you think? Would you keep Pizarro?
I'd want to keep him just because I think there's a lot of potential there. He just hasn't, been able to. This team, this year's been a disaster. So I think him and Higuain, who I guess we could talk about him, the brother Higuain, Gonzalo Higuain. He hasn't played enough. I haven't seen enough of him to say yes or no, keep him. So I would imagine he came for a reduced price.
I would imagine. He was practically retired, right?
Right. So I think they brought him in just so he can play a year with his brother and, keep him. I saw him play. I think it was Columbus, right? That he played for. No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He played for the Crew. Yeah. Okay. Had a bunch of good years.
He had a whole bunch of good years. So there's a guy that I would keep. He's probably going to play. Ride the bench or whatever. But we haven't seen enough for him to really judge the guy. So
right.
There's a guy that potentially will stay. Anybody else in the midfield that we're missing?
I'm not sure. We're running out of time, so let's move to the top. What are your thoughts on Robbie Robinson? Jose Velasquez wants to know.
He's got, I think he's got a lot of potential. He can hold on to the ball decently. They could still work with him. He's a draft pick. He's not worth so much. So keep the kid. I think you make him learn from Higuain, who was my next guy that I'm talking, Gonzalo Higuain. He didn't play enough this year. He got sick. Couldn't play the very last game. I think there's a lot of potential there. He's coming back.
He's coming back, but I'm not excited about it. Higuain is a player that if you ask me if I'm the coach, and that's what Mr. Carranza did ask us in that voicemail, if we were the coach, I would ditch him. I want somebody that is a better team member. He became the captain, and that was our captain who's berating referees and showing what kind of example is he? He very unprofessional at times, thrown his hands around.
Got a red card.
Got a wreck. Yeah, throws hissy fits on the field all the time. He is not the guy I want on my team, and he didn't produce. If he did all those negative things and produced, then you forgive all those things, right? But he didn't. So unfortunately, he'll be back. I know he'll be back. But if I was the coach, I'd kick his butt to the curb and go get somebody else that. And I'm not saying get somebody else that's younger because these big name stars tend to be older. So if it's going to be an older guy, I just want somebody that's going to be better. I don't know any other way to say it.
We kind of talked about Pellegrini a little bit before. One of the guys that was in the midfield. He plays usually on the left-hand side. We talked about they should bring down his salary. He should not be a DP if they do keep him. I think they'll keep him just because there's potential there, but he does not deserve to be one of our DPs. So that's basically covering everything we said before, right?
Yeah, Eric is saying. Eric is enjoying my tirade there. He's saying, "Preach downtown, Peter Brown."
Okay. So I think we covered Pellegrini enough. Okay,
yeah, they got to rework his salary. He's not worth a DP, but you keep him because he's got promise.
Yeah, and there's Carranza, was the other guy that came in for a pretty penny. He didn't produce him as well. Potential there. He scored a couple goals.
Potential, but man,
do we keep him?
Well, I'd say this. I think you probably keep him. His salary was high too, not DP, but damn close. You might need to rework that salary too. And thinking of expansion draft, I probably don't protect him. Look, this is something as expansion draft gets closer, we probably need to do a show just based on that and go in a little more detail into who we will protect and who we won't. And do a little homework, Ed, and then put down a list of players that you want to protect. But so that can be a future show. But yeah, I think you keep him just because of the youth, but you might need to rework that salary.
And I think that did you cover everybody? I think that's our
Agudelo. Did we mention Agudelo? We
did not mention Agudelo.
No, and I like him, but as a guy, he wasn't good enough. He had moments, but I would not bring him back. He hasn't been good anywhere, really, other than the very beginning of his career.
Yeah, I think it was New England, and he went to didn't he go to Europe for a little bit, and then
he played with Red Bull. So
yeah. So
Eric agrees. Agudelo equals trash. Woof.
Wow. All right. There's another guy that
Eric
we had
is
on
harsh.
The show earlier this year. Yeah. So All right. So
good guy.
I think that basically wraps everybody up. Everybody up on the team mostly. I don't think if we missed anybody, guys, bring it up. Put it on in the chat right before we leave, or put it in the comments. So we'll cover them next time. Anything else, Peter? For now,
no. That's
about done.
Everybody's agreeing with Agudelo's out, says Abba. And Dan Destroyer is saying he would sell Nealis, Agudelo, Pellegrini, and Sweat. So I don't think you're going to get much for Nealis, but he's cheap, so I don't know. But yeah, I wouldn't be upset if you got rid of him. Judge Dredd is saying we need to look at Phil Jones. He's a defensive master. So lots of good stuff.
And there's a couple players I think that went down to the USL team. They have one of the forwards that might want to bring up. Yeah, Kiesewetter, who went down, and there's also that other player. I keep forgetting his name.
Espen, right?
Who's Espen? Yeah, he's who scored quite a bit in the USL, and he's a big guy. So there's potential for maybe giving that guy a chance.
Maybe.
If we get rid of Agudelo and other players that are not scoring goals. So I think we basically covered everybody, Peter.
Yeah, I think we did. I think we did good work here, Ed. Thank you, everybody in the chat. You helped us do this good work. Judge Shredder said he was being sarcastic. I don't know. It's hard to read sarcastic. And I don't know who he is. So sorry. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining us. I don't. Do you know who Phil Jones is, Ed? I don't know.
No.
So there you go. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Please, like this video. We only have 5 thumbs up in this video, so we need some more thumbs up in there. But
give us some love.
Yeah. We will do this again next week, guys. And during the whole off season, we will continue doing this, just like we always do. There might be a weekend off here and there, but we will continue, doing the show with you guys and having a lot of fun. And we appreciate. Hey, this was our first full season of Inter Miami. It was a blast. It was fun doing the show with you, Ed, and everybody in the chat. It was fun doing the show with you, and I'm just happy. At the end of the day, I'm happy we got a team. We can bitch and we can complain about the results, but we got a team, and I can proudly wear their gear around town, and I'm excited. So
and don't forget to go to Caneswear to get that gear, guys.
Go to Caneswear. They're going to have a big Cyber Monday deals. Go to Caneswear.com, look it up, or go to the store in Davie. The store is fun. I'll be honest. I go in the store and I'm there for an hour because I'm just sitting there talking to the guys in the store about soccer or about different, tons of people coming in buying University of Miami stuff. And so, you want to talk football, they'll talk football with you. It's like that neighborhood store. You don't just go and buy your stuff and take it to the counter and pay and leave. You're having conversations with these guys. They're a lot of fun just to kind of hang out with in the store. It's your local small business. So... One World, One Goal says she likes my jacket, and you too can go get one at Caneswear just like I did and get a great discount. So thanks so much to Caneswear, and thanks, Ed, for doing the show with me. And, we'll talk next week.
We'll see you guys then.
Please like, share, and subscribe. See you next week.